One of their patrolmen reports that he spotted a suspicious vehicle parked on the side of the road, less than an hour east of Malov's house.
Police officer, hands up. Hands up now. Driver, put your hands on the wheel. Hands on the wheel. Passenger, out of the car, now.
The two men were bloody and bruised, as if they'd just been in a street fight.
Driver, out of the car. Slowly. Come to the hood now.
Inside the vehicle is a recently used crack pipe and one very suspicious item.
There was a package of white socks with some socks missing.
When he was savagely beaten to death. Less than 24 hours later, police have two bloodied suspects in custody who were arrested 50 miles from the crime scene. A background check on Joseph Riley and Gary McAvoy shows they're no strangers to law enforcement.
Joseph Riley was struggling with an addiction problem and was committing numerous burglaries and thefts.
Help me out.
The only thing they tell him is they're investigating a homicide. They don't provide any details about the victim, which makes the first words out of Joseph's mouth especially startling.
So what happened to the old man? One guy or two guys that killed him?
Joseph Riley started the interview by asking, so what happened to the old man? Our understanding through talking to New Britain police officers is that Joseph and Gary didn't have any of this information relative to the crime, which was very suspicious.
Who said anything about an old man?
Joseph realizes he may have just incriminated himself. He comes up with a story for how he and Gary ended up bloodied and passed out. That night, high on crack cocaine, they decided to rob a local country club and stole several items out of a supply shack.
Satellite dish.
Oh, yeah.
$40.
Yeah.
Including the package of white socks.
Let's go.
Then they celebrated.
Hold on. Start for a minute. Light it up.
We smoked a little bit inside the van.
Boy. And let's go. Start the car.
Gary was trying to start the car and he broke the key.
Serious, man? Come on. You busted my nose, man.
Busted your nose.
Serious?
And you're saying you guys got a little scuffle? And that's what all this is?
The only person who can vouch for Joseph's account is his accomplice, Gary. But both are career criminals, and the story strikes detectives as very far-fetched. They have their own theory about what happened on the night of May 14th. Investigators suspect that Joseph and Gary spotted Malov and decided to rob him. In their crack-induced high, the two beat Malov to death and stole his van. There's an easy way to prove that theory. If any of the bloodstains on the two men match back to Malov, it'll be enough to put them away for murder. But when their clothing is tested...
So no on Riley, no on McAvoy, no on both.
There's no trace of Eugene Malov's blood anywhere, just their own DNA. And none of the stolen goods in their vehicle link back to Malov. It's all from the country club, confirming Joseph's version of events the night of the murder.
All right, be in touch. Bye. Okay.
With no evidence to connect them to the Malov homicide, the two crack addicts are in the clear. They remain in jail, pending charges for the rest of their crimes that night. Neighbors gathered from inside Malov's van. It turns out there's a match to one of the hairs. But it's not to Damian Moreno. It's to one of the first suspects in the case. Crack addict Joseph Riley.
There shouldn't be any reason why his hair is in Mr. Malov's van.
On the night Dr. Eugene Malov was killed in Norwich, Connecticut, two crack addicts in a neighboring town were found bruised and covered in blood. Joseph Riley and Gary McAvoy were cleared of the homicide when there was no trace of Malov's blood found on their clothing. But now a hair recovered from Malov's van has been matched to Riley, bringing the two convicts back to the top of the suspect list.
They were both locked up. They weren't going anywhere. And I felt that we had so much more work to do before we could solidify the case.
They begin by calling back a key witness, Oscar Jandry, the shuttle bus driver who's
Individual driving Dr. Malik's vehicle.
It's definitely him.
Jandry isn't the only witness who points the finger at Joseph Riley as Malov's killer. One of Riley's prison cellmates comes forward and helps to cinch the case.
Yeah, Crack Joe is what we call him. He's bragging about how him and his buddy, they rolled some old man, they beat him up, and then...
An inmate alleged that he had conversations with Joseph Riley in which Joseph Riley made mention of himself and another individual, his partner, robbing an old man.
We were punching him, we were kicking him. I could feel his ribs breaking when I was kicking him.
And he said they killed him. Yeah, he said he killed him. He said it was some physician or something like that, a doctor.
That's, Crack Joe?
Yeah, it's Crack Joe.
Finally, the mystery of Malov's murder appears to be solved. With Riley and McAvoy in jail, detectives...
That van, that he wasn't really sure who that was that he saw in that van. So that testimony started to come apart.
And it turns out the inmate who claimed Riley confessed was lying in an attempt to get himself a shorter sentence.